Welcome to another video from Epic Mythology, the channel where we explore the most fascinating stories of ancient cultures. Today, we're going to delve into Arthurian mythology. I'm going to tell you the story of Sir Galahad, the purest knight of the Round Table. If you are interested in this character, watch the video, and if you like it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it with your friends. That way, you will help me to create more quality content for you. Let's start with the story. In ancient times, when King Arthur ruled Camelot, there was an order of knights who sat at the Round Table and swore to defend the kingdom and to seek the Holy Grail, the sacred chalice used by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper and containing his blood. Among these knights, the bravest and most famous was Sir Lancelot, who secretly loved Queen Guinevere, Arthur's wife. One day, Lancelot was deceived by a sorceress named Elaine de Corbenique, who took the form of Guinevere and slept with him. A child was born of this union named Galahad. Elaine gave him to some nuns to raise and gave him a magic sword that had belonged to Balin, a knight who had killed King Pellam, the guardian of the Grail. This sword had the power to cut through anything and could only be wielded by the purest and most worthy knight in the world. Galahad grew up unaware of his origins, but from an early age he proved to be a virtuous, brave, and devout young man. He learned the art of chivalry and became a great warrior. When he turned 18, he decided to go to Camelot to present himself to King Arthur and ask him to make him a knight. Thus began the greatest and most wonderful adventure of his life, the quest for the Holy Grail. When Galahad arrived at Camelot, he found that there was a great feast in the castle, for it was the day of Pentecost, one of the most important Christian celebrations. King Arthur and his knights were gathered in the main hall, where the Round Table stood, the symbol of equality and brotherhood among them. There were 150 seats at the table, one for each knight, each with the name of its occupant engraved on it. But there was one seat that was empty and had no name. It was the seat closest to the king, and it was called the dangerous seat because no one could sit there without dying, unless he was the knight chosen by God to find the Grail. Galahad entered the hall and approached King Arthur, who received him courteously and asked who he was and what he wanted. Galahad introduced himself as the son of Lancelot, which caused great surprise and admiration among those present, for Lancelot was the best knight in the world and no one knew he had a son. Galahad asked the king to make him a knight, and the king gladly agreed, for he saw great potential in him. Then Galahad approached the Round Table and saw that on the perilous seat was an inscription that read, "This is the seat of Sir Galahad, Knight of the Grail." Without hesitation, he sat down, and no one could stop him. Everyone was amazed and realized that Galahad was the one chosen by God for the great mission. After Galahad had sat down on the dangerous seat, another miracle occurred. An old man dressed in white entered the hall, followed by a maiden carrying a sword wrapped in a silk scarf. The old man addressed King Arthur and told him that he came from Nasian the Hermit, a wise and holy man who knew the secrets of the Grail. He told him that he had brought him a sword that could only be used by the most worthy knight of the Round Table, and that knight was Galahad. He asked him to give the sword to Galahad and to accompany him to a nearby lake where a test awaited him. King Arthur took the sword and gave it to Galahad, who unwrapped it and saw that it was the same one his mother had given him when he was a boy. It was the sword of Balin, the one that had wounded King Pellam and caused the infertility of the Corbenic lands. Galahad recognized the sword and kissed it with devotion, for he knew it was a gift from heaven. Then he followed the old man and the king to the lake, where they saw a boat with a coffin. Inside the coffin was a dead knight with another sword in his chest, the sister of Balin's sword. It was the sword of Balin, Balin's brother, who had died in a duel with him, not knowing that they were brothers. The old man told Galahad to take the sword from the knight's chest and free his soul and Balin's, which were condemned to wander the world until someone worthy did it. Galahad approached the coffin and grabbed the sword. He pulled hard and pulled it out without difficulty. At that moment, a great roar was heard and the sky lit up with a glow. The old man told Galahad that he had fulfilled the prophecy, and that he now had the two most powerful swords in the world, the sword of Balin and the sword of Balin, the only ones that could cut the metal of the sacred spear that pierced the side of Christ on the cross. He told him to keep the swords well, for they would be of great help to him in his quest for the Grail. Then he told King Arthur to say goodbye to Galahad, for he would not see him again until he had found the Grail. The king embraced Galahad and wished him luck and blessings. Galahad entered the boat, and the old man and the maiden followed him. The boat sailed across the lake and disappeared into the horizon. Galahad sailed on the lake for several days until he came to an island where there was a castle. There he met two knights who were also searching for the Grail, Sir Bors and Sir Percival, who were his cousins. The three were happy to see each other and decided to join forces for the great adventure. They entered the castle, where they were greeted by an old and ailing king who told them that it was King Pescador, the descendant of Joseph of Arimathea, who had brought the Grail to Britain. He told them that he kept the Grail in a secret room and that only knights who were pure in heart and body could enter. He told them that he had seen the Grail once when he was a young man, but he could not touch it or drink from it because he had committed a sin. As a result, he had become ill and lost his kingdom. He told them that only the knight chosen by God could cure him and restore his glory. The three knights asked the Fisher King to take them to the Grail room, and he agreed. He led them down a dark and narrow corridor until they came to a golden door. The king opened the door with a silver key, and the three knights entered the room. There they saw a table covered with a white tablecloth, and on the table was a golden chalice surrounded by a heavenly light. It was the Holy Grail, the most sacred and mysterious object in the world. The three knights were amazed and knelt before it. Then they heard a voice speak to them from the chalice, saying, "Welcome, my sons, to the presence of the Holy Grail. You have been chosen by God to see this miracle, for you are the purest and noblest knights of the Round Table. But only one of you will be able to touch the Grail and drink from it, and that is Galahad, the Knight of the Grail. He is the only one who has passed all the tests and kept his heart clean from sin. He is the one who will heal the Fisher King and restore the glory of his kingdom. It is he who will complete the quest and join me in heaven." The voice faded, and the three knights looked at each other. Bors and Percival felt great joy and admiration for Galahad, and told him to approach the Grail and do as the voice had told him. Galahad rose and approached the Grail with reverence. He took it in his hands and kissed it lovingly. Then he drank from it and felt an indescribable peace and happiness. It was filled with a divine light and rose into the air. Then he heard the voice again, saying to him, "Galahad, you have fulfilled your destiny. You have found the Grail and drunk from it. You have attained perfection and grace. Now come with me to heaven, where your eternal reward awaits you." Galahad smiled and said, "I thank you, Lord, for this blessing. I am ready to go with you." And so Galahad left this world and went to heaven, where he was received by the angels and the saints. His soul was united with the Holy Grail. This is the story of Sir Galahad, the purest and noblest knight of King Arthur's court, and the only one to see the Holy Grail. His story is one of the most beautiful and exciting of medieval mythology, and teaches us the value of virtue, faith, and love. I hope you enjoyed my story, and that it inspired you to follow your dreams and search for your own Grail. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, where you can find more mythological stories. You can also leave a comment with your opinion, suggestions, or questions. I will answer them as soon as possible. See you next time.